Okay. Hello. Good morning, dear teachers. Good morning, dear children. This is Jagdish Jakampudi, SA English at ZPHS Gubbagurti, Konjaral Mandal, Khammam district. Dear children, you have been listening to English online classes. I heartily welcome you all to the English online classes. Dear children, in the last few classes, you have listened to unit number 1, personality development. You have listened to 2 reading segments, attitude is attitude, and every success story is a story of great failures. Children, after listening to those 2 readings, I hope that you might have comprehended the text thoroughly, and also hope that you are able to write the answers to the comprehension questions. I believe that after reading these 2 stories or listening to these 2 readings, you might have understood that the people like Nick Vujicic, Abraham Lincoln, Lady Forrest, Colonel Sanders, etc., faced so many humiliations, challenges, difficulties when they were realizing their dreams. So I say that it's quite common to face challenges, difficulties, or hurdles when we are going towards our goals. So, dear children, in today's class, I am going to focus on reading C. I will do it. This I'll do it is a biographical sketch of Nagavarapu Ramarao Narayanamurthy, the founder of Infosys. You know, Nagavarapu Ramarao Narayanamurthy, similarly, just like Nick Vujicic, Abraham Lincoln, Lady Forrest, Colonel Sanders, too faced so many challenges when he was studying. When it comes to Nick, he faced physical challenges. He faced so many humiliations in his childhood. Abraham Lincoln faced so many failures when he was realizing his dream. But when it comes to Narayanamurthy, he did not face any health problems or some other problems. He particularly faced so many financial problems in his childhood. You know, Nagavarapu Ramarao Narayanamurthy was a bright student in his childhood. He was very sharp. His dream was studying at the IIT. But due to his financial problems, Narayanamurthy's father couldn't afford to send him to the IIT. But Narayanamurthy, being an introvert, was disappointed for some time, but made up his mind very soon and studied in Mysore, worked very hard with a lot of perseverance, finally became the pioneer of software industry. With uncompromising quality, enthusiasm, uncompromising attitude, he became a successful man in his life. So today, let's read the bio sketch of Narayanamurthy. Let me share the screen. Right. Dear children, the unit number 1, personality development, you have already read reading A and reading B. In these 2 segments, you have learned about some people and the rejections they have faced, and also came to know how they have become successful. In this reading C, we are going to read the bio sketch of Nagavarapu Ramarao Narayanamurthy, and this reading segment has been taken from his wife's story, How I Taught My Mother to Read and Other Stories. The author of this book, Sudhamurthy, was the wife of Narayanamurthy. She was an Indian social worker and author. She began her career as a computer scientist and engineer. Besides being the chairperson of the Infosys, she has founded several orphanages, The present story is a selection from one of our most successful stories, How I Taught My Grandmother to Read and Other Stories. See, children, by the end of this reading, you will be able to read the text and comprehend the text, and you are going to think on the passages, you are going to listen to, and by the end of this reading, you are going to use some of the unfamiliar words that you are going to see in this text, and also you are going to use some of the grammar issues that you are going to see. Finally, after the end of this reading, you are going to construct a few relevant discourses based on the text. See, this is the extract from the text. I'll do it. So this is the story of Nagavarapu Ramarao Narayanamurthy. We are going to see a brief bio sketch of Narayanamurthy. We are not going to read the entire biography of Narayanamurthy. A bio sketch, it is a short form of a biography. We are not going to read the entire life history of Narayanamurthy. In nutshell, we read important events that have taken place in the life of Narayanamurthy. The unit is, the reading segment is titled, I Will Do It. Now let's read the reading segment. Here, let's go. He was short, he was sharp. He was the brightest boy in his class. His seniors used to ask him to solve their difficulties in science. He could have gone unnoticed in a crowd, but once you asked him a question related to physics or maths, there was a spark in his eyes. He could grasp theories of science faster than the speed of light. He came from a poor but educated family. His father was a high school teacher and an avid reader of English literature. He, like all the boys in his class, was trying to get admission into some engineering college. The brighter ones wanted to study in the IIT. There was an entrance test for IIT. This boy, along with his friends, applied to appear for the test. They did not have any special books or coaching. All these IIT aspirants would sit below the shade of a stone mandap close to Chamundi Hills in sleepy town of Mysore. See, dear children, in this reading, you may come across some unfamiliar words. The unfamiliar words may be sharp, brightest, spark, avid, aspirants, mandap, sleepy. Their meanings have been supplemented to you here. Here, the word sharp means able to grasp quickly. Bright means clever or intelligent. And unnoticed is the word here. Unnoticed means ignored. And one more word is there here, that is spark. Spark is not the literal spark. Here spark means a feeling of excitement. And avid is another word. You are going to see this one in this paragraph. Avid means very enthusiastic or keen on doing something very eagerly. Another word you are going to see is aspirant. An aspirant is someone who tries to get a higher position. And one more new word maybe for you, that is mandap. Mandap is a raised platform, and probably this may be a new word or an unword for you. A known word, sleepy. Sleepy here refers to very peaceful, right? See, children, about Narayanamurthy, a few details were given in this paragraph. About Narayanamurthy, the first thing we have to understand is that he was very short in his appearance. But though he was a short man, contrary to his appearance, he was a bright boy. He was very sharp. Sharp means able to grasp quickly. When he was listening to the subjects, particularly science, mathematics, or physics, he could grasp those theories of science, maths, physics very quickly. In no time, he used to understand things. He was such a bright boy in his studies. Though he was such a short man, he was very bright, very sharp in his studies. So because of that sharpness, he could become the champion of information technology. You see, he was the brightest boy in his class. His seniors used to ask him to solve their difficulties in science. He was such a bright boy that when he was in his class, not only his classmates, even his seniors used to meet him and ask their doubts with regard to science or mathematics. See, if your classmates asks you their doubts or difficulties in their subjects, it's quite common. But Narayanamurthy was such a bright student that even his seniors used to ask him their difficulties in science. This point says that Narayanamurthy, when he was a student, was such a bright student. He could understand the theories of science, maths, or physics so quickly. He was not that only. Even he used to help his seniors. That says that he was a child prodigy. He was such a bright student in his studies. You see, another important thing, the words in black here, he could have gone unnoticed in a crowd, but once you asked him a question related to physics or maths, there was a spark in his eyes. See, could have gone unnoticed in a crowd. Why do you think that he could have gone unnoticed in a crowd? Does it because that he was a short man? Do you think that he might have gone unnoticed in a crowd because of his short personality? No. When he was Narayanamurthy, not only in his childhood, even after growing up also, he used to be an introvert. He was very shy man. That's why he never made any kind of sound, or he never got exposed in the class. That's why he could have gone unnoticed in a crowd. But you see, he could have gone unnoticed in a crowd, but he did not go unnoticed in a crowd because he was a very bright boy. If he hadn't been a bright boy, definitely he could have gone unnoticed in the crowd. But because of his sharpness in his studies, he did not go unnoticed in a crowd. The reason, he was such a bright boy. Whenever a question related to physics or maths was asked, there would be a spark in his eyes. Don't take the literal meaning of the word spark here. Spark is not the small particle that comes from the fire. This spark, means a feeling of excitement. Since Narayanamurthy was very interested in mathematics and physics, if anybody would come and ask him a question related to mathematics or physics, there would be a spark in his eyes. That means that he was very happy to get questions related to mathematics or physics. Because of this sharpness, he did not go unnoticed. Here, understand this sentence. Very often questions will be asked on such sentences. Why do you think that he did not go unnoticed in a crowd? It was not because of his appearance. Understand the point that he did not go unnoticed in the crowd. Actually, he should have gone unnoticed in the crowd, but he did not go. The reason was that he was a bright boy. Because of that sharpness in the studies, he did not go unnoticed in the crowd. So whenever the students or seniors or his classmates come forward to ask him doubts related to maths or physics, there would be a spark in his eyes. Another important point you have to understand in this paragraph is this sentence: he could grasp theories of science faster than the speed of light. What do you mean by this sentence? Do you really think that he understands things really faster than the light of the speed light? No. Here it is a little bit exaggeration, but here the writer wants to bring to our point that he understands the things really quickly. It does not mean that he really understands the things faster than the speed of light. We can't, it is not possible. It is a little bit exaggeration, but this little bit exaggeration is made here to make us understand that he was very quick to understand things. Don't take the literal meanings of the words or sentences whenever you read the text. Here, sharp and what is this? Spark, sharp, these words you have seen. Spark does not mean that the particle of the fire. In the same way, here also you could he could grasp theories of science faster than the speed of light. He doesn't, nobody understands things faster than the speed of light. But a little bit exaggeration is made to make us understand the point that he was very quick in understanding the things. Now let's move on to the, so in the first paragraph, the points established were that Narayana Murthy was a short boy, and he was a very clever boy in his what is that, in his childhood. And he also used to solve the doubts of his seniors, and he did not go unnoticed in the crowd because of his shyness, because of one reason, that he was very sharp in his studies. Another point that was discussed, that he could understand the theories of science very quickly. He could understand the theories of science very quickly. These are the 4 points we have discussed in paragraph 1. Now let's go to paragraph 2. He came from a poor but educated family. His father was a high school teacher and an avid reader of English literature. Now these details are about his family. So Narayana Murthy came from a poor family. Though the family was very poor, all the family members were educated. Father, mother, and all his brothers, sisters were educated. His father gave utmost importance to studies of the children. So, though in spite of that poverty, Narayana Murthy went on studying. See, his father, about Narayana Murthy's father, you see, he was a high school teacher and an avid reader of English literature. That was about Narayana Murthy's father's way of doing. He used to read English literature very enthusiastically, very keenly. Literature means books or poems or anything written are called literature. You know, avid reader means, you see, the meaning is given here. What is this? Sorry. Avid, very enthusiastic and keen. See, he came from a poor but educated family. His father was a high school teacher and an avid reader of English literature. He, like all the boys in his class, was trying to get admission into some engineering college. The brighter ones wanted to study in the IIT. There was a entrance test for IIT. This boy, along with his friends, applied to appear for the test. They did not have any special books or coaching. All these IIT aspirants would sit below the shade of stone mandap close to Chamundi Hills in sleepy town of Mysore. You see, that is, we have discussed a few things regarding Narayana Murthy's family and his father. Here, about Narayana Murthy, a few more details are given. So, in those days and even today, most of the bright students want to get their admission into the IITs. In Narayana Murthy was a child also. He too, when he was in his schooling, he too wanted to study in the Indian Institute of Technology. So for that one, Narayana Murthy tried his level best. For that one, he, like all the boys in his class, was trying to get admission into some engineering college. The brighter ones wanted to study in the IITs. There was an entrance test, JEE entrance test we have even today also. Almost all the students after the completion of intermediate appear for this entrance test so as to get an admission into the Indian Institute of Technology. So Narayana Murthy too applied for this entrance test. So, but you see, today you have got so many coaching centers, so many special books to train you to get an admission into the IIT. But when Narayana Murthy was studying, such facilities were very scanty, and not only that, not only because of that, because of Narayana Murthy's poverty, he couldn't buy books or he couldn't get any kind of coaching to get an admission into the IIT. That's why, without going into the coaching centers or without buying any kind of books to prepare for that IIT entrance exam, he sit along with his friends, and it was along with his friends. He did not have, sorry, here all these IIT aspirants means someone who tries to get a position. So desirous people. Narayana Murthy was an aspirant. He wanted to study at the IIT. With that aspiration, he prepared himself for to get an admission into that one. How did he prepare for that entrance test? All these friends, Narayanamurti along with his friends would sit below the shade of a stone mandap close to Chamundi Hills. This Chamundi Hills is located in Mysore. Narayanamurti too belonged to Mysore. Chamundi Hills is very famous there. So beside that Chamundi Hills, there was a mandap, a raised platform. Mandap means a raised platform. Maname danni oka gudi laga antam, ratito kattina gudi. So a kind of mandap was there. He would sit close to that mandap in the Chamundi Hills and sit in the, what is this, below the shade of a stone mandap close to Chamundi Hills in the sleepy town of Mysore. Sleepy town means, what do you mean? But do you think that all the Mysoreans sleep there? It's not like that. Don't take the literal meaning again. Sleepy means very peaceful. Nothing, what is this? Nothing different happens here. People are busy with their regular works. So very peaceful city that is. So Narayanamurti used to sit in the shade of stone mandap beside the Chamundi Hills. That is how he prepared for the IIT entrance exam. See the important points that you have to understand from this paragraph. Point number one, he did not take any kind of coaching to get an admission into the IIT. He did not buy any books. He helped, indeed, he has helped his friends to get their admission into the IIT. His father was a, what is this? Father was a high school teacher and an avid reader of English literature. And his aspiration was studying at the IIT. For that one, he did not buy any books. He did not take any coaching. He prepared along with his friends sitting in the shades of the trees. Let's continue the parts. Here you see, next one, he was the guide for the others. While others struggled to solve their problems in the question paper, he would smile shyly and solve them in no time. He sat alone below a tree and dreamt of studying at IIT. It was the ultimate aim for any bright boy at that age, as it still is today. He was then only 16 years old. See, Narayanamurti aspiration was studying at the IIT. He started preparing for the IIT entrance exam, sitting in the shades of the trees. And when he was preparing for the entrance exam, he also helped his friends who wanted to get their admission into the IITs. But his friends, whenever they were struggling to solve their problems or difficulties in question papers, Narayanamurti used to smile shyly and he used to solve them in no time. No time means very quickly. See the words here in black: smile shyly and solve. Repetition of the sound smile and letter, smile shyly and solve. This is called alliteration, repetition of the same sound or letter in the adjacent words. See, Narayanamurti, why do you think that Narayanamurti used to smile shyly and solve smile shyly? The reason, it's not, the reason is very obvious. He was an introvert, and as he know answers to almost all the questions, he used to smile shyly since he knew answers to almost all the questions that were given in the previous question papers. How did Narayanamurti prepare for the entrance test? He did not take any coaching. He did not buy any books. Simply, he had gone through the previous question papers. When he was going through the question papers, whenever his friends had asked him the doubts or problems of those previous question papers, Narayanamurti used to smile shyly because he knew answers to almost all the questions. He seldom found difficulty in the previous question papers. The other reason might be that he was an introvert. Because of that reason, also he might have smiled shyly. So why do you think that Narayanamurti smiled shyly? That question may come. If that question comes, you may say that since Narayanamurti was an introvert, he might have smiled shyly. Or the other possible answer may be that since Narayanamurti knew answers to almost all the questions of the previous question papers, he might have smiled shyly. So that is what you have to comprehend here. And he always that was his lifetime ambition. Studying at the IIT was Narayan Murthy's lifetime ambition or ultimate goal. For that dream only, he had worked very hard right from his childhood. He wanted to pursue his higher studies at the Indian Institute of Technologies. uh, Almost all the bright students in those days wanted to get an admission into the IITs. Even today also, you children after the intermediate, you too wish to get an admission into the IITs. But getting an admission into the IIT is not so easy. You have to be very bright. You should be in a position to solve the question paper very quickly. You have to write the answers. You have to answer the difficult questions. Since Narayanamurthy was a bright boy, he did not face any difficulty when he was going through the question paper. By then, when he was preparing for the entrance exam, Narayanamurthy was just 16 years old. That was the age of Narayanamurthy. When he was appearing for the entrance test, Narayanamurthy was 16 years old. The important things that you have to understand here, that is a smile shyly, that is one, and the another point is ultimate aim of Narayanamurthy was getting an admission into the IIT. For that one, he always dreamt of it, sitting under the what is this, shade of the stone mandap. Now let's continue. He had prepared for that IIT entrance exam very thoroughly. He had been waiting for that entrance exam. The D-Day came. The D-Day. D-Day means an important day. The vocabulary, the meaning of the word D-Day is given. An important day in a person's life is called the D-Day. For Narayana Murthy, automatically the D-Day becomes the day of the entrance exam for the IIT. So Narayanamurthy had been waiting for that D-Day for a long time. Finally, that D-Day came. The D-Day here stands for the IIT entrance exam day. So since Narayanamurthy was living in Mysore, he had to go to Bangalore to appear for the test. So it might be that there was no what is that exam center in Mysore. That's why he had moved to Bangalore or came to Bangalore, stayed there with some relatives and appeared for the entrance test. See, Narayan Murthy went to Bangalore and he did not stay in the hostels or in some others, not in the what is it, hotels. The reason might be that because of his poverty, he couldn't afford the expenses of the hotels. That's why he stayed with some relatives, and finally, the dream, he appeared for the entrance test. It's very obvious that he did very well because he was such a sharp boy. He knew, particularly he was very sharp in mathematics, physics and chemistry. In those science subjects, Narayan Murthy was such a bright boy. It became a catwalk for Narayan Murthy. For the IIT entrance exam became a catwalk, means a easy going one. So he appeared for that test. He did very well in the sense, wrote the exam very well. He might have scored 90% marks in that entrance exam. But you see, but would only say okay when asked. It was the opposite when it came to food. When he said okay, it implied bad. When he said good, it implied okay. When said excellent, it implied good. His principle was never to hurt anyone. This is a very important point you have to know about Narayan Murthy. The principle that Narayan Murthy followed throughout in his life was that he did not wish to hurt anyone at any cost. He always thought that he should not hurt anyone. That's why you see a few examples are given about his principles. See, he never told highly about himself in the public. He never appreciated himself. He never boasted about himself. Though he had written this IIT entrance exam very well, he told the people that the exam was okay. He did not like exaggerating the things. He never boasted about himself. But when it comes to others, he always encourages them. He never tries to hurt others' feelings. That was the strong principle that drove Narayana Murthy throughout his life. You see, when it comes, an instance is given about Narayana Murthy's principle. You see, he did very well, but would only say okay when asked. It was the opposite when it came to food. It is not about food only. If anybody asks him about food, though the food doesn't taste good, he says that it is okay. Why? Some people always find fault with others. They say that so you are wrong. But Narayana Murthy was not such a human being. His principle was that he should his principle what was the principle that drove Narayana Murthy? We should not hurt others emotions. You see, well, but would only say okay when asked. It was the opposite when it came to food. When he said okay, it implied bad. When he said good, it implied good. When he said excellent, it implied good. His principle was never to hurt. See, many people give that negative feedback. Always they try to find fault with others. They try to find for the drawbacks in a person. But Narayana Murthy was not such a human being. He always tried to see the positive side of the things. Don't think that Narayana Murthy was too much interested in food. It's not about food. One point is simply given here. Don't they couldn't have given about food. But you see, whenever if some person serves you food, if it doesn't taste good, if somebody serves food to Narayana Murthy, if it doesn't taste good, he says okay. If the food is okay, he goes for the higher degree of quality. If the food is okay, he says good. If food is good, he says excellent. So about others, he gives positive feedback. When talking about himself, he does not exaggerate about himself. That is the attitude that Narayana Murthy followed throughout his life. Even today also, Narayana Murthy is such a noble human being. He never hurts others. He is always driven by values. He is always driven by values. That is his most important principle that guided Narayana Murthy. You should, children, try to imbibe this quality from Narayana Murthy. That is, you should not hurt others' emotions. Let's not give that negative feedback. Narayana Murthy was such a nice human being. Now let us see the next paragraph. The IIT, for the IIT exam, he appeared for that test and he wrote very well. We have just discussed. The IIT entrance results came, and as expected, he had passed with a high rank. Why doubt? Narayana Murthy was such a bright boy, such an intelligent boy. He even used to solve the difficulties of his seniors. For such a boy, the IIT exam was simply a catwalk. So you see, he had passed with a high rank, and what a delight for a bright student, for any student. For example, getting an admission into the IIT is your dream. If you get a high rank in the IIT exam, how do you feel? Don't you be joyful? Don't you feel very happy? See, what a delight. Delight means a feeling of great pleasure, excitement. Narayana Murthy was very delightful after seeing his results. He was so thrilled, he was so happy, or thrilled, the vocabulary, the word meaning is given. Thrilled means excited. He was so thrilled with that excitement, with that feeling of great pleasure. He went to his father to by then Narayana Murthy's father was simply reading a newspaper. Simply he was reading a newspaper. It's not moving. What happened? Just wait, children. Yes, yes, right. See, Narayana Murthy's father was reading a newspaper. Narayana Murthy approached him, and you see, Anna, I have passed the exam. Father's response, well done, my boy. I want to join IIT. His father stopped reading the paper. He lifted his head, looked at the boy, and said with a heavy voice, my son, you are a bright boy. You know our financial position. I have 5 daughters to be married off and 3 sons to educate. I am a salaried person. I cannot afford your expenses at IIT. You can stay in Mysore and study as much as you want. Indeed, it was a difficult situation for any father to say no to his bright son. But circumstances were like that. It was common then for the man to be single earning member with a large family dependent on him. The vocabulary support, you see, Anna. Anna is a word used to address a respectable elder or older male. Afford, this is the word. I think we see it a second time. Afford means be able to spend money or time also. Expenses, money spent on something. So Narayan Murthy had passed the IIT entrance exam with a high rank. He was delighted, he was thrilled. Out of that thrill and delight, he approached his father. Father was reading the newspaper, so he addressed his father saying, Anna, I have passed the exam. Anna ante Telugulo Anna kadu. In maybe it is a Kannada word. Anna is a word used to address a respectable elder or older male. Anna, I have passed the exam. Father responded. See, simply, father said, well done, my boy. Father, Narayan Murthy, I want to join IIT. That was his wish. For this point, this wish, he had been working very hard. This was his childhood dream. For this dream, he worked very hard. He dreamt of studying at the IIT, but he got a high rank. He met his father and told his wish, expressed his wish. Now let us see how his father responded. His father stopped reading the paper because our father was very nervous to listen to those words. Father stopped reading the paper. He lifted his head. Until then, why did he lift his head? Until then, he bent his head as he was reading the newspaper. He lifted his head, looked at the boy, and said with a heavy voice, means a little bit, what is this? Unhappiness or sadness, heavy voice. With a little bit sadness or unhappiness, he said, my boy, my son, see, most of the things are written in past tense, but you see direct speech. This is a live conversation, that's why you see here present tense. My son, you are a bright boy. You know our financial position. I have 5 daughters to be married off and 3 sons to educate. I am a salaried person. I cannot afford your expenses at IIT. You can stay in Mysore and study as much as you want. See the heartbreaking words from Narayana Murthy's father. Narayana Murthy's father expressed these, said these words. What did he say? My son, I know that you are such a bright boy, and a bright boy not only studies well but also understand for family's financial position. Since you are a bright boy, I hope that you understand our financial position very well. You see, Murthy, I have 5 daughters to be married off. They have to be married off, and along with you I have got 3 more sons. They should be given minimum education. If I go on giving you education, what about the remaining 5 daughters, and what about the remaining 3 sons? Shouldn't I give them minimum education? Shouldn't I perform their marriages? What should I do, Murthy? You are a bright boy, I know, but you should understand our financial position. I cannot afford your expenses at the IIT. You see, afford means be able to spend money. Here generally we use afford with the can or cannot. It always go with the can or cannot, could or couldn't. I cannot afford your expenses. I can't bear your expenses at IIT. To buy books or to go to stay in the hostels or to study at the IITs, we generally need more money. For that one, I am unable to bear or afford your expenses at the IIT. My dear Murthy, please understand our financial position, and you can stay in Mysore and
Jagdish,
study in the
time
local.
అయిపోయింది. Time over.
Give me 5 more minutes time, Srisha. Okay,
Okay.
5 minutes more. You can stay in Mysore and study as much as you want. That is the advice of Narayana Murthy's father. Indeed, it was a difficult situation for any father to say no to his bright son. No father likes to say no to a bright son, but father was compelled, forced to say no to his bright son, because Narayana Murthy father knew very well that he was a bright boy. He had got a high rank in the 8 entrance exam without taking any kind of coaching, without buying any books. He got that high rank, but father was unable to send him to the IIT because of his financial position. So these words really shattered the dreams of Narayan Murthy. But Narayan Murthy, what could father do here? Circumstances were like that, situation was like that, financial family position was like that. So not only in those days, even today also, you see, if there is only one person earning, if only one person earns money in a family, he cannot afford the expenses of all the children. Narayan Murthy's father was a single earning member in the family. Other members were not earning any kind of money, but that's why Narayan Murthy's father couldn't bear the expenses. Because of that one, he said no to Narayan Murthy for his studies. Uh, just one more minute. You see here, it's not moving sometimes. I mean, no, it's not moving. No, just Sirisha, just be on the line. Got stuck. No, no, what to do? So, yes, yes. And now, uh, dear children, you have just listened to a few paragraphs of Narayan Murthy's life. Now, let's reflect on the following questions. I am going to present a few questions here. So, try to write answers to these questions and show the answers to your teachers. What do you understand about Narayan Murthy, about his life, about his studies and other things? And the second question, what type of genre or what type of text is this passages you have just listened to? What type of genre is this text? And third question, Murthy used to solve the difficulties of his seniors. What does this tell us about Murthy? Question number 4, what was the ultimate aim of Narayan Murthy? Question number 5, why do you think his father rejected him to join IIT? And along with this thing, you see, children, we have just seen three figures of speech in this reading segment. One is hyperbole, the second one is alliteration, and the third one is simile. See, alliteration, see what is alliteration? The occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. The figure of speech, he would smile shyly and solve them in no time. Such questions will come in the comprehension passages. What is the figure of speech used in this sentence? They may give you this question and may ask you a supplementary question. What is the figure of speech used in this question? If you see this one, the figure of speech used is alliteration. What is an alliteration? The occurrence of this, sir.
In the class is there.
Okay, sir. I'm going to finish it.
Teachers are joining in this group.
Just 2 minutes, sir. Just 2 minutes, sir. Alliteration, repetition of same sound or letter. You see, children, one more thing. Simile is there. Simile, comparison, figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind. He, like all the boys in his class, was trying to get admission into some engineering colleges. You see here, this boy is compared with the other boys by using the word like. Another one, you see here, the noise, we are going to see this word, this sentence in the next segment. The noise was like the chirping of birds. Comparing, see, figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind. When we are comparing one thing with another thing, generally we use the words like or as. If you come across such words, that figure of speech is simile. Next one, you see, you see here, hyperbole is there. We have talked about this one in the beginning of the class. Hyperbole, exaggerated statement or claims not meant to be taken literally. He could grasp theories of science faster than the speed of light. If this sentence is given, what is the figure of speech used in this sentence? The figure of speech used in this sentence is hyperbole. Why? It is an exaggerated statement. I have just told you that Narayana Murthy couldn't have understood the things really faster than the speed of the light. But just for an exaggeration, this statement was made. If an exaggerated statement is made, that exaggeration is simply called hyperbole. With this one, I end the class here, and we will continue our discussion in the next segment. Thank you. See you in the next class.